All right, welcome again to Social Distillation, the submarine still of the internet, where we attempt to drop the beat and pour white lightning straight onto your brain. What are we talking about today, Samo?
Oh, we're gonna talk relationships. That's why I have my Snatch Specialist t-shirt on. And hopefully you get something from this because we're two guys screaming into the clouds. But I follow a lot of this stuff because it's fascinating. The science behind relationship and psychology behind relationships is fascinating, and I take it from all angles. Giggity. But I'm going to talk a little bit about some thoughts from a guy that I follow who's the pretty much the number one divorce lawyer in the country, at least, probably the world. And he just did a $800 million estate that had to be worked on a divorce level. And you wanted to talk about remind me what you wanted to talk about.
So the show was called Better Late
Oh,
Than
yes,
Single.
yes.
And it is
Let's start
basically
with yours, because that's the dating portion of it, and then we'll get to
so,
buckle up for this one, I think.
right, because it is so the premise of the show is what they call eternal singles, which these are people who have never been in a relationship. And in the interviews at the beginning of the show when they're talking to these various singles, some of them have never even been on a date. Some of them say they've been on a handful of blind dates that friends set up for them, and then they never go anywhere. And as you meet these people, it becomes clear why, especially the first guy. Oh, that first guy. Yeah, that he had issues.
It's
And
spoiler alerts for the show a little bit. We probably won't spoil too much
yeah.
but at the same time, there is going to be some things that you would learn on the
Mhm.
show.
I haven't finished it yet anyway, but it's more about the premise than anything for me. And I was curious about your thoughts because when I told you about it, I didn't expect you to start watching it. You said, "Oh, I got an hour to kill," and then 50 minutes later, "Oh, I have so many thoughts."
Yeah.
And mostly for that poor first guy who they spend. He's really the one contestant you get to know the most, and I suspect it's because he's the most shocking as far as, boy, do we have some work to do. And they pair these people up with supposed experts that are going to help them come out of their shell, help them, you know, change, have a makeover, in order to make it easier to attract a member of the opposite sex.
Yeah, and I do have a problem with I'm trying to remember which one it was. One of the experts, she was like I think it was she was like the relationship therapist, and I it's a Korean show, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what it's called there, what she would officially her title would be, but I think they said relationship therapist as what they called her. But she was telling him to do things, and that's not what therapists do.
Mm-hmm.
So I know they're trying to fast forward things because it's a show, but I think there's a lot more needs to be involved there with someone like that, especially who's so far on that part of the spectrum that yeah,
Oh, you just remind me of something a music I found scrolling through X earlier, which can I share?
you
Yes.
should be able to.
Okay. So I have no idea who this guy is, but I found this hilarious. It's a for those of you just listening, it is a screenshot of a New York Times headline. Opinion guest essay. I'm a therapist. Chat GPT is eerily effective. And this is from August 1st. This is from yesterday. And the person who posted this, his comment was, therapist realizes that the machine that constantly validates all your feelings and tells you what you want to hear is basically indistinguishable from modern psychotherapy.
Yes.
Sam, you're training in modern psychotherapy. How accurate is that?
The headline or the person's post about the headline?
Both.
The person's post about the headline. Yeah. It's called affirmative care, and that's the big argument
Well,
right now. And
mm,
one of the reasons I'm in this thing now is because I could bitch and moan from outside or I can bitch and moan from inside. And I chose to bitch and moan from inside and put basically put skin in the game by paying for this, paying a
Hmm.
lot more than most people pay for, their whatever hobby they have, except for golf, which was my other choice. And I just figured I wouldn't pay to be mad at myself all the time. So,
I
it,
do that for free.
yeah.
So, but it's interesting that you point that out because one of the reasons I make snide comments about my wife making me watch these things, but one of the reasons I like watching these kinds of things with my wife is because they spark conversation. They can be thought provoking if they're done well. And one of the things she pointed out that I really agreed with and thought that's a good point is not just is this, relationship counselor, therapist lady telling this guy what to do, but one of our problems with the makeovers is it's so artificial. She
Hmm.
made this point, and it was the second or third episode where you meet someone where they're showing you his makeover, and she got really annoyed at this of you're not you're not tweaking this person's style. You're changing it to fit a box that you think he should be in. When
Hmm.
instead, what you should be doing is making this person more comfortable and confident in their own skin.
Hmm.
And so you actually see that with the first guy because one of the first guy's biggest problems is you can't understand him. And
Hmm.
it's not just even it's Korean language. It's, my wife knows enough to understand some words and phrases, but she knows the alphabet well enough she can understand the sounds. So if she hears a word she doesn't know, she can look it up because she knows the sounds. Even the Korean people in the show could not understand this guy because he barely moves his mouth when he talks.
Hmm.
So that's a serious TISM marker right there. That's a serious TISM checkbox right there. He talks like this. He's Milton uh from Office Space. Is he's mumbling because he also has to go to a speech therapist in order to learn how to open his mouth so he can enunciate.
Hmm.
And that is a major indicator of serious self-confidence issues there. So that is a way to help someone. You're not telling him what to say. You're just teaching him how to speak better.
Well,
So you could
that's positive, but with the one thing, other thing about him was eye contact, right? And which is again a tism thing. And they just told him make eye contact when it should have been a process of, hey, right now I want you to try something.
Mhm.
I want you to go ahead and you stare at my eyes and just tell me something you did this morning. What did you have for breakfast? Something perfectly normal, no pressure, no nothing, but the only challenge is to make eye contact with your therapist. So she's not telling him go make eye contact with that person that you're trying to date.
Mhm.
She's doing an activity that makes it more comfortable for him to make eye contact with her as the trusted therapist. All a therapist is paying somebody to be a trusted friend. That's all it is, if you do it right. And so, but also someone who's knowledgeable enough to guide the conversation in a way to help you work on the things you need to work on. So you're just paying somebody to be an educated, trusted friend is all it is. Not a do this, do that, because it's just like we always say, you can't just say stop being depressed, right? It's like, okay, no, here's some ways to feel a little better, and let's see if that helps with your depression.
Right. Because if it
Yeah.
was that easy, I would have done it myself already.
Yeah, and because being depressed sucks,
Yes, it
and
does.
normally we try to do the thing that makes us happier. That's why we eat don't. That's why people stress eat and all of the
Hmm.
depressed eat because it
Hmm.
makes them feel momentarily happy. Well, there are other ways to do it with actually addressing the depression. We're actually
Hmm.
addressing the anxiety, and in this case, actually addressing a skill, which is interpersonal contact. The skill of interpersonal contact exists, and if you're tismed, we won't use the full word. If you're tismed, then you have a deficit in being able to develop that skill. We call it in skill development, we call it an ability, which is the underlying things behind the skills. Now, I will fight with the skill development people is I think you can build abilities. They do not, but that's information theory versus organic systems. And a long conversation in of itself and has been with me and my professor. I still got an A in the class, but
And you see that with this guy because he spends, I think it was like 6 weeks on this makeover, and when he shows up on, on set where they have all these singles meeting, it is a marked difference. You can actually understand the words coming out of his mouth. You can actually see that he is speaking like a normal. Now, it's not perfect. He's still a little quiet. He's still a little mumble, but it is a marked improvement that you can literally see. But here's to your point, why you do it the right way is you see a couple of episodes in, he starts to revert.
Yeah, well,
As he starts to get uncomfortable, he
hmm,
starts to
not only revert, but okay, so say I give the instruction to make eye contact. And just that's the only thing I do. I don't make them comfortable. I don't go through the drilling process or anything like that. What happens is I'm going to go ahead and purposefully do this while I'm talking. So you see me looking to that corner of the room and make eye contact. For those that are just listening, you can see the whites of my eyes above my irises. It's basically like I'm forcing to make contact. I am looking directly at the camera and I am talking, and you see my voice is getting more strained because actually my brain is strained from staring at that camera. And so, yeah, if you just give the instruction, oh, you need to make more eye contact to be more personable, you're going to get this forced, strained version of it. And not only does that just look creepy and weird, but it takes a lot of cognitive load. And we only have so much cognitive load for any given circumstance. So if I'm spending, say it's an uncomfortable act for me, that's why I reverted back to when I was working with this person, hypothetically, to just tell me what you had for breakfast this morning, because that's not a big strain. If I'm trying to have a conversation with somebody where I'm listening to their words and trying to react with my words, plus I'm doing this thing that is hard on my brain because naturally I don't do it. Now, not only is it just looking creepy, but it's affecting my ability to have a conversation. That's that. Go back to our first videos. How much did just being on camera affect how the words came out of our mouths and how we spoke?
and it was something that took work.
Hmm.
It was an
Reps. It
evolution.
took reps.
Reps. Yeah.
Yeah.
So my other big takeaway from the show um, is something I've actually been ranting on a while, and I feel like this is my proof of concept, which is places like South Korea and Japan have huge demographic problems that have become political issues, and the the politicians are trying to figure out how can we fix this. And I've been ranting for years. You don't need to fix it. You need to do the things that you did that caused the problem in the first place and get those problems, get those barriers out of the way. You don't need to encourage people to have sex and make babies. We are hardwired to do that. And you see this with the
I would
first.
say yes and no on that. There are things in modern society that hijack the brain. Video games and stuff for young boys is a great example.
I was
Pornography is
actually
a
going to
great
bring up the
example. Yeah.
comfort crisis here in a second
Yeah.
because the first girl we are introduced to, we they show us her routine, which is go to work, then go home to her tiny apartment that looks like a dorm room, not an apartment, and put on a beauty mask and sit with her cat and watch TV until she goes to sleep. Well, part of that is the comfort crisis. Part of that is that it's very easy to do that. To do that nowadays. It's I've brought up before the book Bowling Alone, as it used to be one of the reasons we had social activities is because it wasn't as easy and as comfortable to just sit at home. Well, but the other problem here is that culturally, because of the way the economic system and the political economy, the regulatory burden and tax burden works, is most of these people work like 12 hours a day. So you're working 10 to 12 hours a day. You're tired. You don't want to go out. On top of, it's actually hard to go out once you are a professional adult. My wife has said this before, and she reiterated it while we were watching this. And I was making this point with this girl is she said, if I hadn't met you in college, if I had graduated single, I would probably still be single because I would go to work and then I would come home to my cat and my TV shows. And that's just what I would do because outside of school, where you are forcibly around lots of people your age, it's kind of hard to socialize nowadays. And it's very easy to just go home and comfort crisis yourself to death.
Well, and even having going to physical school right now, the way the current college generation is, I walk into class and I'm a little bit shy in initial meeting, but once I've met you, which you kind of are forced to do in a class a lot of
Mm-hmm.
times, especially since they emphasize group work, uh, which is I think one of the better things about school nowadays is they're trying to combat that by emphasizing group work. But you walk into a class and everybody's, for those that are just listening, I have my phone up and I am pretending like I am typing or scrolling or any number of those things you do on your phone. And my phone was only like 30 centimeters from my face. So it's if even that, that's the environment. And even when we get into groups, usually around four, five, six, depending on the size of the class, so many times I had to, and this is a sensitive thing because of the patriarchy and all this stuff, is I'm like, I'm the white male in the group that's masculine. But I have to tell them, I'm like, I'm not trying to dominate every conversation here, but y'all will not talk.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that I'm dominating the conversation, it's I stop talking and there's nothing. There's not even crickets because we're in a building that has probably pest control. So, I'm just like, somebody contribute to the conversation we're having now. And then I'll get someone maybe pipe up and it starts with, um,
And you see this in the show, which to my point is you just get the barriers out of the way and nature will take its course is when they are all first gathering together, all the contestants in this dating show, it is incredibly awkward. Is I said, oh my gosh, they're in middle school because it's all the girls on one side of the room and all the guys on one side of the room and nobody's talking to each other. But eventually the ice breaks because it has to because you're all stuck in this room together. There's no phones, and you're kind of expected to talk to each other and to interact. So eventually the ice does break. And yeah, these people have had makeovers, but they're still pretty darn awkward. They're not used to this, they don't have a lot of experience with this. And yet they start flirting with each other. They
mhm.
start talking to each other. They start trying to get to know each other. And again, there's still some train wrecks along the way, but nature is starting to take its course because, again, we are hardwired for this so long as we do not have these modernities that hijack our brain and let us ignore that part of our software.
So I kind of, yeah, this is a good example of, we talk nature nurture, right? And some people are natural extroverts and some people are natural introverts, which is less than the social media would like you to think because most people think being an asshole to everybody is being introverted. But the the or being selfish is being introverted. No, it's not. It's how you charge your system and how
Mm-hmm.
how that plays out in your interactions. So if you're like socially drained, then and you're introverted, you're socially drained, it's going to be hard to have interactions, but you still are capable of interactions. And so there's that part of it, and that's kind of the genetic part. But then there's a learned part of it. This is the nurture over nature, and it's like 50-50. Okay? So some of it is natural, but you got a lot to play with nurture. And when we talk skill development, pretty much everything in life is a skill. And these people learned social skills over the course of this. I will continue to watch it, even though it was making my brain hurt the first time I started it. But they're learning social skills. and we all can learn social skills. And so I am naturally an introverted person. I need days to recover from a big social interaction. And going to class is a social interaction. But I have worked on social skills enough over the last, I mean, you remember me in high school. I was one of the most awkward kids in school. But now people would think I'm a raging extrovert on that one meeting they had with me because I've worked on these things. I watch Charisma on a Command. I do their drills. I listen to people like Bustamante, who I'm going to bring up here in a second again. And I work on all of these things that make it easier to do the thing that wears me out. And I have to do it to be successful in what I do because I work with people. And that basically, if you're afraid of AI, find a job where you work with people, by the way, because my job is not in danger. Uh, if you're a marketing person, your job is in danger. Sorry. If you do spreadsheets, your job is in danger. But that's a side point. So, but you can work on all of these things, and 50% is a big swing. Say you're in the 36th percentile of extroversion. Well, you can be in the 25 either way. So 50, 61%. So you're better than average, right? So you can shift that a lot. Uh, Speaking one-on-one with people, and I'm talking about, okay, so say you're the person that worked on it and you're with somebody who's awkward. There are patterns you can use, and this is where Bustamante comes in. He's a CIA guy, and they're obviously trained to get information from people, but they do it in a way that makes people comfortable with you, right? So this is his skill. I'm gonna look him up if you want more, but I'm gonna give the poor man's version, the cliff notes of a skill he uses. And this is what the CIA teaches their agents when they're talking to a new person. It's question, question, affirmation. And I use this in class. So we had one-on-one discussions or even small groups. Hey, Heath, what'd you have for breakfast this morning?
Black coffee.
Black coffee? You didn't have anything else?
Nope, that's all I have for breakfast.
Yeah, I'm used to fasting too, and that's a good start to the day for me. I questioned you, I affirmed it. Now, if you were somebody I just met, I mean, obviously that was a semi-robotic one because we're doing it here on a podcast, but you automatically are slightly more comfortable with me because not only am I showing interest in you, I'm showing how we have something in common. And he's like, go through like 3 or 4 cycles with that, and someone is almost your best friend in the beginning. And I do that with people, and it's not to manipulate them, it's to get them out of their shell. It's to get them talking, it's to get human interaction
Well,
out of
and as
them.
you've pointed out, this is a skill you've had to train, so it's also a good way for you to get out of your own shell. It's a
Hmm.
good way for you to get out of your own way.
Yeah, it's a script to break the ice, right?
Exactly.
It's like, oh, what year are you in school? Oh, I'm on my second year of grad school. Oh, have you had physiology of behavior yet? Oh, yeah, yeah, I did. That class was really tough for me. Yeah, I know. Memorizing all of those little parts of the brain is really hard. There you go. Question, question, affirmation.
That's a nice, easy little formula
Hmm.
to remember. And it's the kind of thing that my big criticism of the show so far is I wanted more time with these coaches and these makeovers to see what, and they really only spent a lot of time showing us that first guy who had so much work to do. And a lot of the others they kind of breeze over. And there's one in particular.
Well, it's the same. That's the same formula that Biggest Loser made me angry about because
Yes.
Biggest Loser would spend so much time on the weigh-ins and the occasional product placement and then the last second workouts that you never saw the entire process.
Yeah, it's speaking of process, one of the more interesting people on the show that I want to know more about and more about how they worked with him, and you barely see him is, and I can't remember his name, but it's partly because I identify so much with him, is when they first show him, all the coaches, commentator, panel is, what is this guy doing on the show? Because they show him working out, and he's a pretty big buff dude. Well, you find out he's kind of a big buff dude because he has worked very hard to become that way. because he was a chubby kid that got teased and picked on a lot. A chubby kid living in a foreign place. His family had moved to Brazil, and so he's in a culture he doesn't know, in a language he doesn't speak very well. Oh yeah, and he's the chubby kid, through middle school and high school, and so
Mhm.
he had to work
In
very
Brazil,
hard
which
to
is known
overcome
for
that.
being sexy people, right?
Exactly, and what I want to know, I mean, it is showing you because you look at this guy like this panel did, and you think, how are you in a how do you have trouble getting a date? Well, when you have things that scar you at a young age, you become very, very hesitant about that thing, which that thing was social interaction. That thing was dealing with members of the opposite sex who
Well, and he
were teasing
responded
him
to
as a
it by
young.
going to the gym, which is a good response.
Hmm.
It's a positive response. The problem is it doesn't address the skill of social interaction. It
Exactly.
addresses a little bit of self-confidence, but if you don't develop the other half of that, you don't know how to use this new thing you have. It's like someone handing you, a 50 cal and you've never shot a gun before. You're going to look at that thing and be like, I ain't going to touch that trigger.
Yeah. Yeah. It's here you go. Go. And it's, what? Where's my coaching?
Yeah.
Shouldn't we start with a baby step?
Someone bought you a new car, but you've never learned to drive.
Hmm. And how would you address that? Because they don't show us how they addressed it, which is really annoying to me.
Again, as their therapist, I would create comfortable interactions in the therapy room first. And and this is where I don't know, and I haven't gotten far enough, and maybe you can correct me on this. Did they do one-on-one therapy and group therapy with them?
Not that they've shown.
Okay, because I think the first step would be just creating a comfort zone with the therapist and then integrating role play in a group environment. So kind of like, yeah, yeah. So like an AA meeting, but everybody's like, you can kind of break people off and just, hey, we're gonna do like a speed dating session. So you break the room up into tables around the thing, and you have, one group of people rotating around the room. And hey, we focused on this in our last session. I want you to focus on this with your new partner. And so that then you kind of take it outside of just my relationship with you because you
Hmm.
can you can become comfortable with a personal relationship and still not be comfortable outside of that. So so yeah, it would be creating the space, the comfort space first. Then it would be integrating the skills, and then it would be taking a semi less comfortable environment, but still not threatening, and having them integrate those skills into that. And I think that would be a good progression model for it.
Which leads me to one of my other
Which you can even
criticisms.
we have technology too. You can do that over Zoom.
That's true.
And you could take a little bit of the discomfort out of it by
That
having that barrier in between the
that
two
that
people.
makes my next criticism even more annoying is because we've gotten far enough into the show now where they're starting to go out on dates with people they match up with, and it's a train wreck. It's terrible. And but this is where I want the coaches to continue coaching is why was it just this 6 week makeover period? And not only is
Why weren't
this
they practicing on each other? I thought that was the whole point of the show.
I thought so too. And
Okay, so I'll need to get further into it because that would be my next step is to practice with each other and
exactly.
hoping something sparked up there, but at the same time that's those skills can be carried over.
So I think it would make for a more interesting show as well as be more beneficial to these individuals and to anyone else who sees themselves in these people is all right, come here. All right. I watched the film of that date. It was not good. Here's why. Here's what you need to work on. Here's what you did. Here's what you should have done. Try these things instead. Here's one or two things to work on so that this doesn't happen again. Instead of just the reality TV faux drama, actually help these people.
You could even have somebody drilling in a mirror. I mean, who are you more comfortable with if not yourself, right?
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Um,
Or into a camera filming themselves, and nobody's going to see it but themselves.
they actually one of them. So the guy who was coaching that first guy, the super tismy guy that had trouble speaking, is he made this comment that this guy needs to be prepared because he kind of got ambushed by two or three of the girls who he just kind of rounded the corner and there they were and they were like, hey, we're going to go do this thing, you want to come with us? And he was just like, and then he kind of almost ran off back to his room and like closed the door and was like, oh, that was awful. And it's like, ah. And the coach said when they cut back to the panel of, he's not good with spontaneity. He needs to be prepared. It's like, okay, well, that's a thing to work on. Well, text him, Zoom him, saying, hey, go to the bathroom, go to the mirror, practice these things, okay? Practice these couple of techniques so that next time
I
you
can
don't run
identify
away
with that
scared.
surprise though, because if we remember from our first dorm experience, again, remember everybody, don't think of Sexy Time with Sam episodes. Think of Sam as the most awkward person you'd ever go to high school with. And there was communal not quite communal showers. There were stalls, but they were in a communal bathroom in the dorm we were in, and it was a co-ed dorm with separate floors for male female, but there would often be males and females on the opposite. They were
Mm,
supposed to be escorted, but nobody ever enforced that.
yeah.
And like the second day we were there, I was going back from it's real steamy in the shower, so you can't take your clothes in there with you. So I was going back from the shower to our room, which was like 20 feet, but there was a corner and a corner in between
And a stairwell.
and a stairwell, which is what comes in because they were coming out of the stairwell when I came out and I had shampoo in one hand, soap in the other, and the towel tied around me. And I bumped into one and the towel went, "Poof." And I have shampoo in one hand and soap in another, so I can't grab towel really quick. And I don't know how quickly I got to our room, but that was my first interaction with the females at Parker Hall. And hopefully they were impressed or at least didn't laugh.
Hope it
I
wasn't a
didn't
cold
hear the
shower.
word "oh, how cute." So there's at least that. It's like a little baby Jesus.
But that is an objectively awkward, embarrassing moment. This was just, hi, how you doing? We're gonna go do this thing. Want to come with us? So that's not good. But it's hard to
Still
practice and be careful
traumatizing
when you
though.
do when your towel falls off.
You want to say you're cool enough to just say "ladies" and pick it up and put it back on, but
In the moment, no.
in the moment, no, the door was 20 feet away. The towel would have taken hands. And of course, you could have dropped the soap in the shampoo, Sam, and picked up the towel. But, you're
When
not
your
thinking.
brain is short circuiting, it's hard. It's
Well,
hard
and
to
at
think
that age,
those
there
things
might have been
through.
blood going to the other part too. So,
Yep, 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 yep.
silence,
Well,
brain, penis is thinking.
uh speaking of, I gotta go to the gym and get yard work done. So, uh, do you have any further thoughts on this? Hopefully, we've
Yeah,
actually
I guess we'll transition to
helped.
marriage next time. So we'll just tease that from here. We'll stick with the singles for now because then we'll go with what happens if you actually make it past that moment. Uh, but no, I think my whole theme in this conversation is if you suck at it, it's okay because it can get better. And it's not faking it to develop a skill. Is the person up there on the stage playing the piano during the recital faking playing the piano? Are they faking that they have emotion behind the keys? No, if they're that good, they probably are putting a lot of their emotion into the keys. It doesn't mean they didn't have to develop the skill of playing the piano. I love the Sleep Tokens drummer's interview, and he's talking about all the skills he's developed and what his influences were and how he learned this and how he learned that. And then you can hear it in his fake voice that he uses because no one knows who these people are and they do that on purpose. But also when he plays, you can see like almost tears coming out of his eyes because of he's putting so much into it. Just because you're developing a skill doesn't mean it takes the human out of you. In fact, it's what one of the things that makes us human. We have the integration of both our emotion and our ability to get better at things. And relationships are no, why would we treat relationships any differently? Why would we treat interactions with other human beings any different? We develop those skills as we grow up. That's your starts with your relationship with your parents. It's your mother, then your father, if you have one, and then it's your peers, it's your friends, it's your or if, before that it's your aunts, your uncles, your grandparents.
Hmm.
Then it's your friends and your peers, and we slowly shift to where we're an individual developing relationships with other people. And one of these is the most important one, or ones that you're ever going to come across, which is who you decide to be a partner with. And ultimately, probably make children with, which is important to develop a good relationship before you do that, by the way. Uh, so why are we treating this any different than all of these other things that we develop skills for? Uh, you should be good at it. And if you didn't get that from your parents or you had a genetic disadvantage, what is wrong with looking at professionals, getting professional help, going to therapy? It's not affirmation if you're learning a skill. They may affirm that you're lonely and you want to not be lonely, but they better not affirm that that's your lot in life.
Hmm.
They should affirm that you are having this problem. Now, how do we make you better at it? Again, you could go from 10% to 35%. And guess what? There's somewhere out there for you. Someone out there for you, right? If you go from 70% to 95%, there's a lot of people out there for you. But you're better at it than you were. Your options are more open at that point. You can go to the gym. You can make yourself healthier, make yourself look better, but also learn the interpersonal skills to make it worth it.
Hmm.
And I gave you an example. I gave you a lesson earlier, and it's Andrew Bustamante. I had to look up the first name, Andrew Bustamante, to get the full explanation there. But I mean, that's exactly what he tells you. He just gives you a lot of examples and why they do it that way. I gave you one lesson. Uh, this is not professional therapy, by the way, disclaimer. But it's a skill. Eye contact is a skill. Practice it. Find a family member. Find a family member you're comfortable with and just say, hey, can I use you for a second? I have trouble keeping eye contact, because you're my family. Can we just talk about something normal and I'm going to work on this skill of maintaining eye
Hmm.
contact? You know, find somebody if you don't have somebody you're comfortable with, go to a therapist, which is apparently, which is unfortunately a problem nowadays. We talked about 1 out of 7 men not having a good friend, right? If you do not have anybody like that, pay for it. It's worth your money.
Hmm.
It is worth your money. It is more worth your money than the donut that makes you feel better because you're lonely, or the bottle of Jack that makes you feel better because you're lonely, right? So that would be my plea. That would be my lesson for the day is tr don't be ashamed of treating it like a skill, especially if you're not very good at it at first, because the better you get at it, the more you can actually focus on the emotion. These elite level musicians don't have to worry about the nuts and bolts of what they're doing. So they channel their emotion into the thing they've practiced a million times. And that's what we feel as their audience, and that's why we paid them money. Same thing with relationships. Get the nuts and bolts down, repetition, 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 and then you put your feeling behind it. And I guarantee you the interaction that benefits from that is going to be the one that you're going to benefit from the most as well.
No, that's a good place to leave it. Uh, Hopefully that helps, and we'll keep going on this theme because boy, howdy, is it necessary
Well,
and
and I also
important.
feel like we're back in our comfort zone a little bit too. The politics is important and everything. It's a little annoying, but this feels good to talk about
Hmm.
for me. And again, back to my theme, I've been training in being able to talk about this. And now you can see the emotion behind my voice when I talk about it. I probably start speaking too fast. So, yeah, it's Everything's a skill, and the more you master that skill, the more of yourself you can put into that skill. And I want maximal opportunities, which is developing the skill, and I want to maximally select for the personality that blends with mine because I don't have to worry about the skill and I can focus on personality.
All right. Well, we will see y'all next time with more overthinking Wheel of Time. Who the heck knows what next time, but I'm sure we'll think of something.
All right. Yeah, keep the comment on these too, people, if you watch both types of episodes, because we love addressing comments. We like commenting on the comments. And these are important topics, and everybody has different experiences. I don't have your experiences. Heath doesn't have your experiences. We don't have each other's experiences. Comment, and we'll riff with it.